All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a word that you probably think you have a pretty good handle on. Literate. For centuries, it was simple. It just meant you could read and write. But what if I told you that's changing? That we're staring down the barrel of a new kind of illiteracy, and it has absolutely nothing to do with books.
I mean, really think about it. What if being literate today has nothing to do with your ability to read? At all? I know, it's a pretty wild thought, but stick with me, because wrapping your head around this idea is the key to seeing this invisible trap that's being built all around us.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to investigate this new, hidden kind of illiteracy. And look, this isn't about not knowing facts. It's not an absence of information. It's about the loss of something much, much deeper, a fundamental human skill, the ability, the freedom to think for yourself.
So let's define our terms here. The new illiteracy. It's not about someone who can't pick up a book and read it. No. The new illiterate person is someone who literally can't solve a problem, or navigate a new part of town, or even just work through a complex thought without immediately reaching for an AI or a device to hold their hand. It's this deep, deep dependency that really becomes a loss of what you could call cognitive freedom.
Okay, I know this all might sound a little sci-fi, a bit futuristic, but here's the thing. To really get what's happening to us right now, we actually need to look backwards, way back, thousands of years in fact, to the last time a piece of technology came along and completely rewired how the human brain works.
There was this brilliant thinker, Walter J. Ong, who laid this out perfectly. He looked at the massive difference between oral cultures, societies without writing, and literate cultures. In a purely oral world, if you wanted to know something, it had to be stored in a person's head. Memory was absolutely king. But then writing came along. And that technology, that tool, let us externalize our memory. We could put it on a page. And that simple act freed up our brains to do all sorts of new things, like deep, abstract, analytical thinking. So writing didn't just change how we talk to each other, it fundamentally changed the structure of our consciousness.
And this is a perfect example of what Marshall McLuhan meant when he said, the medium is the message. It's the tool itself, the technology, that has the biggest impact on us, way more than whatever information it's carrying. The jump from speaking to writing is the ultimate proof that our brains literally reshape themselves around the tools we use. And guess what? It's happening all over again right now. Only this time, it's happening at a scale and a speed that is just completely unprecedented.
So the big question is, how did we end up here? Is this just an accident? Well, no. It's really, really important to get this. Our growing dependency on these tools, it's not some unfortunate side effect. It is the product. It's the central feature of an incredibly profitable business model. And if you want to know how it works, look no further than someone like Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google. He blew the whistle on this. He calls it the race for human attention. And these companies win by basically hijacking our built-in psychological weaknesses. You know that little red notification dot? That's designed to mimic an urgent alert, to trigger your anxiety. Infinite scroll, it's built to eliminate any natural stopping point, so you just keep going. And the pull to refresh feature, that's literally a slot machine. It gives you a variable, unpredictable reward that creates a powerful compulsion loop. It's all by design.
Another tech pioneer, Jaron Lanier, he actually gave this whole system a name, and it's a pretty fitting one. Bummer. It's an acronym that stands for Behaviors of Users Modified and Made into an Empire for Rent. And that name says it all, right? The key takeaway here is that you're not the customer. You're the product being sold. Your attention, your behavior, and yeah, your dependency. That's what they're renting out to the highest bidder. The entire system is engineered to make you more dependent, because a dependent user is a very, very profitable user.
Okay, so we've got the history lesson, right? We know our tools change our brains. And we've got the business model. We know our dependency is being engineered for profit. But is there any hard scientific proof that these tools are actually making us weaker? Well, you're in luck. Let's get to the smoking gun.
Think about something like GPS. The common defense you always hear is that it's just a crutch, right? That only people who are already bad with directions use it. It's a tool for the directionally challenged. Makes sense. But is it true? Well, a group of scientists decided to put that exact idea to the test.
And here's where it gets really, really interesting. The first thing they looked for was a link between people who said they had a bad sense of direction and how much they used GPS. And you know what they found? Nothing. Zero. Absolutely no correlation. So that whole crutch for the weak argument, it just completely fell apart right there.
But then they found something else.
They found a huge correlation, but it was going in the complete opposite direction. What they saw was that the more a person used GPS, the faster their own internal spatial memory declined over time. It was a clear, dose-dependent effect. The more you outsource that skill to the machine, the more the muscle in your brain that does that job just withers away.
And the conclusion from this is just, it's huge. It turns everything on its head. We're not using these tools because we're weak. We are becoming weak because we're using these tools. That's the real takeaway. This technology isn't just a passive helper sitting on the sidelines. It is an active agent that is literally changing how our minds work. So, this brings us to our final conclusion. When you put all the pieces on the table, the history, the business model, the hard science, you're left with this really powerful metaphor. The Gilded Cage.
Think about it like this. Way back when, you had a small group of literate priests who held all the power. Why? Because they were the only ones who could read the important texts, the laws, the scriptures. They interpreted reality for everybody else. Well, today, we have a new priesthood, a tech elite, and they're the ones designing the AI models, controlling the algorithms, and interpreting reality for an increasingly dependent population. They are the new gatekeepers of knowledge.
And that, right there, reveals the bars of this gilded cage. They're not made of iron. They're made of convenience. They're coated in this illusion that it's all our choice. We outsource a little bit of our thinking here and there for a bit more ease. But with every single task we hand off, our own ability to do that thing weakens. The cage is completely invisible, right up until the moment you try to leave. The moment you try to get by without the tech, and you realize you actually don't know how anymore.
So that leaves us with one final and very personal question to think about. The cage is comfortable, no doubt about it. The convenience is amazing, and the bars are designed to be invisible. So the only question that really matters is this. If all the screens suddenly went dark tomorrow, do you still know how to fly?